Day 2, jour 2. I am sitting here inside of everyone's favorite, I hear Paul in the background, everyone's favorite CG store inside the Noman School of Visual Effects green screen hangar. I have the pleasure of sitting with a man I've been waiting to get my paws on for a long time. Ian Joyner, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for sitting with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Am I talking to this thing, or
Absolutely.
do I just talk loudly?
Speak into that microphone.
Alrighty.
So we've been sitting here discussing umbrellas and the electric storm that has been the ZBrush Summit 2015. It's safe to say that that is what it's been.
It's the brightest summit of all time, I think.
Well, this is evidenced by the sunglasses.
Absolutely. I left mine over there. Otherwise, I'd match. We'd look cool.
Okay, well, you know, that food for thought. We can do a photo op afterward.
Yes, yes.
Day 1 saw you sit inside of a room with a collection of artists of the highest caliber.
I was going to say brilliant artists.
Yeah, I can say
Brilliant
that with you.
artists.
He's saying what I am, he's mirroring what I'm thinking. I think it has something to do with this electric confluence with my
It
new
is.
umbrella in the background.
Bouncing into there, going
Right,
into
right.
here.
One
Bouncing
unified thought, the creative spirit working together. Tell us a little bit about the experience for you of joining that group of
Alrighty.
people and that caliber of art in one room. Talk to us about that.
So intimidating is a word that is thrown around. It does not even begin to start to describe. When you-
Loosely thrown around, it's fair to say.
It is loosely thrown around, but this is definitely the time where it's actually intimidating. I've been so busy all week, I didn't get a chance to really dwell on it until I was on my way here and going, what am I doing? I shouldn't be going up with these people. This is insane. No. Can I get out of this yet?
There's no escape.
There was no escape, and I
And it
got
was
into the room,
live?
and it was live, and you're working on computers that you don't know, and it's always a little strange, but we all had that same handicap, and the work was phenomenal. 3 hours of work, and you look at what everybody did, I'm just shocked. It's humbling to say the least.
And it's
Humbling.
something to be something to hear you say that, because you are a celebrated concept designer of the highest caliber, working on some of the most famous films in the business over
I
the
don't know
last
who's
several.
celebrating me.
Well, I'm celebrating
Well,
you.
then I got one.
Sure, you've got. Hey, it starts with one, and
I think my wife is celebrating me.
I think I saw your wife outside with your small child. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, she
Small
was
little
here. You
cute
may have-
kid with the blue eyes.
That's the one.
What a lovely family.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Yes,
may
Emily
Cosmos
and Hillary,
bless
hello.
you.
They are awesome and amazing, and
A true gift.
my daughter did scream in the middle of it just to.
I heard that.
Yes, she just wanted to let us know that she was here.
Okay. I should have brought mine. They would have run around,
Yeah, we
run
should.
amok together, right?
Next year, ZBrush Summit, kid friendly. I think
Okay.
everyone bring your kids. You're hearing it here first.
Past the
Bring
terrible
all the
twos, right?
Yeah, actually at the terrible twos.
Right,
Let's make it weird.
This is what the world needs: is another one of me and you running around on the loose.
Yes.
That's so you felt actually humbled to be in that room. Is what you're saying.
I mean, these are guys that I've admired for years and years and years, and to get to see them like what they can do in 3 hours, it's shocking. I mean, some guys were doing full scenes, full
I saw that.
characters. I did a bust, which I
Right.
was, just rushed to get that done, and other people have like full character, multiple characters on some end. I mean, it was just beautiful work.
Just
and
a-
the guys doing the hard surface stuff. I can be quick in some areas, but hard surface.
I can't wrap my mind around that either. I
Yeah.
say to myself, there are some monster people working in those things.
Absolutely.
I like this
absolutely.
organic jazz that you guys are playing, but that other
That's a
business
whole
of the
other
hard
thing,
surface
yeah.
is a whole other mindset. I mean,
I do a lot of hard surface at work, so when they're asked which one I wanted to do here, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, if I'm got 3 hours, I'm definitely doing organic. I'm not jumping into hard surface.
right. Did you feel? I mean, you're saying that it was sort of daunting to go in there with those guys. Did you feel sort of what would be the sentiment that you had? Were you nervous at all?
Well,
a
they were
little
very
bit?
mean to me. When I walked in, no, I'm kidding. They were actually nothing but sweet, wonderful people. I was so busy up until getting in there. I didn't have a chance to dwell on it too
Really
much.
think about it.
But those last, driving to work, from work to here,
Mm-hmm.
it just became, oh my God, I'm going to have to go bring my A game and do something presentable in 3
Right.
hours with some of the best people in the industry.
Pretty
Absolutely.
pretty
it's intimidating.
exclusive company in there, and also a couple of guys are fighting for their belts, which is a whole other mentality,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
my mentality on it was I was going to start, well, originally I was going to do a pumpkin guy.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do this crazy Pumpkin King thing. Then I saw a couple moments of the first group, and I saw pumpkin guys. And I went, oh, there goes my concept. Okay. So didn't have a chance to really dwell on it. Got in here and just kind of started going from anything. So my mentality was, I know I'm not going to win. So what I want to do is
Whoa,
just
whoa,
start
whoa,
from
hold on a
sphere.
second. Are you
well,
serious?
guys, if you want to vote for me and make me win, prove me wrong.
Let me handle the brand here for a second. Vote for Ian is what he's saying.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely,
That's Joyner.
absolutely.
Starts with a J. Vote for
does.
Ian. So carry on.
So my goal was to go in there, start from a sphere and using just the simplest of brushes and see what it was able to be done in 3 hours. And once again, ZBrush shows you can pretty much do anything in about.
You have a very pragmatic approach in much respects. I've been noticing that as you were talking today as well. You have a very sort of thorough and pragmatic approach, and then you sort of take it to these outer limits. And
Yeah, I try to approach everything from kind of the simplest of ways, because I want to have as much flexibility as going to be possible. I want to make sure that, especially working for other people, you want to make sure that what you're doing is going to be adaptable.
I'm going to
for
come
every
to that in a
occasion.
minute. I want to talk to you more about your personal work and the complexities that are associated with that, and where that sort of take us behind the creatures in the personal work and where these sort of concepts come from. We saw some of that ideation process unfold today on the main stage, but take us a little deeper.
Yeah, a lot of it is, growing up watching mostly 80s genre film. I think that was a huge part of it. Comic books.
What kind of comics do you like?
Oh
Now you're
boy.
hitting my soft
Oh
spot.
boy, oh boy. So started off with the superheroes, as I think everybody did. And now
X-Men.
I've gone full Batman. Dark Knight Returns was probably like when I went. I was 6 years old at the time, so I wasn't really reading it then. But that was when I started going, and then got into Watchmen, which then got me into the whole Vertigo world. Where
Right.
you get Hellblazer, you get
Which is a different tilt.
Sandman.
Yeah, you get into
Totally.
this much more mature sort
Then
of
I got into
constructs.
Dark Horse, the aliens, the predators, the
Right.
everything, and then of course I'm not wearing my shirt till Sam Max. Then Hellboy that's probably the one comic I make sure I get every trade paperback, every collected edition. I have to have my Hellboy.
I'm also a fan.
Love it.
Yeah. I got the first appearance of that at last Comic-Con.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, real treat.
The Dark Horse. We're
It
huge
was-
nerds apparently.
Yeah,
huh?
we're nerding out here on comic books. You'll have to stop by my place sometime.
I
got a
know you're
wonderful-
shocked that a group of ZBrush artists are nerds, but yeah.
In my former office here inside the television center, there was a myriad of vintage comic books all the way back to the sort of Kirby age and
that's awesome.
silver and bronze
Have
age.
you been to
comics.
the Kirby exhibit?
No, I haven't actually. This
I
is a
hear it's fantastic.
great point of reference. I'm
It's
intending
gone
to do that.
next week, I think.
Oh,
I'm
geez.
hearing.
Okay, so mark
Yeah.
that on the calendar. Somebody remind me to make note of this later.
I'm hearing nothing but wonderful things about
But
it.
the first appearance of the Hellboy character, it was a couple of panels. There's some contention about this. There's three different ones. There's Next Men #4, I believe, and then
Yep.
there's
Dark
the
Horse
San
Presents
yeah,
was,
San Diego Comic-Con Comics #2,
That was the one
1991,
with
with
the
the
crazy
with the
demon.
pelican on the
Yep,
front
yep.
cover. I got that one. I was really.
Oh, that's
I mean, I grew up in Toronto, so for me, San Diego Comic-Con was
A pipe dream.
a pipe dream at that age. I mean, to be honest with you. So you're driven by comics.
A lot of comics and a lot of genre film. I always was drawn to the character more
Mm-hmm.
than like the cool creature. Like I loved The Thing, of course, because
course.
that movie is amazing. But it was the characters of like Slimer in Ghostbusters, Chewbacca, all these characters that had this personality instantly.
Right.
That was maybe a little more on the whimsical side, but I just was instantly drawn to that. Then of course there was the Geiger. Looking at his work, just totally influenced me in new ways. Frank Frazetta.
Of course.
All of
Yes.
that.
Little Frank.
So I just was really into, just all these different weird things. And when I do my personal work now, it's mostly these days animals. So it's all the weird fantasy stuff is great, but then I go right back to always studying the real world, seeing what exists, looking at the deep seas, looking at the rainforest, looking at just what's outside in your backyard.
Right.
There's amazing creatures. I mean, just the other day I had a little praying mantis crawling on you. Pick 'em up.
I
you
saw
look at 'em.
one on the trunk of my neighbor's car here in Los Angeles.
They're
I
so
had
cool.
I had no idea here in Los Angeles we had these things. Little praying mantis. I took a few photos of them and I said, "Well, aren't you marvelous just hanging out on the back of a
Oh,
Volkswagen?"
They're harmless. You can pick them up. You shouldn't, but
Yeah, I didn't want to mess with them, you know.
Yeah, but they're great to have too. If in your yard, they'll kill all the little the bad bugs.
This is
So,
what I
yeah.
came to find out. I did a little research afterward. Living in Los Angeles is just an extreme experience for me over the last 6 years. I'll show you a picture.
6 years you've been here now?
Yeah, I'll show you a picture after this interview of a spider I saw the other day, and I took a picture of it with my phone, and it's just remarkable. It had captured a bee, and so a bee is about that big. If you can get a shot of that, right? A bee is about that big, and this spider was about this big. And I said, "Whoa, that's something." And I
Yeah,
think you'll get a kick
absolutely.
out of that for
Oh,
a reference. I
absolutely.
mean, it looks like a macro. The picture I took.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
really-
did you do it on your iPhone?
yeah, I just did it on the
it's
old
crazy.
iPhone. Try to throw a plug there for them, but here's the
No,
iPhone.
if Apple wants to send us free phones.
Yeah,
when
by all
new
means.
Came out, we'll take them.
My 4S is long in the tooth at this point. But in a serious way, this sort of understanding of the natural world percolates into your professional work. And I want to ask you, working with, at this point, we've established that you are a comic book nerd like I am, and like many of us are, working with the world's favorite heroes and villains, the Lizard, for instance, on the Spider-Man film. What are some of the pressures and the pangs associated with that? And I mean, here's a safe place we can talk about it
Oh, of course,
honestly
no
and
one's
openly.
watching,
Yeah.
so I'll name names. No.
But for you, what are some of the internal
So,
hurdles?
one thing that I've seen in the past couple of years, and I think Marvel Studios is big proponent of this. The change from comic book movies being ashamed of the material to them embracing the material. You know, you look at a movie like Ant-Man that just came out. I couldn't imagine that movie being done a few years ago, not just because of the technology, but because it was Ant-Man.
Well, the narratives are changing as well.
You know, the fact that they can end Avengers movies and put Thanos in there, and all the geeks are freaking out about it and realizing, like, no one else gets this.
Drives the price of someone's books up, too.
Absolutely, absolutely. But, you know, that's one thing, working on these characters, like, it's almost the opposite, where early on when you'd be working on these projects, I kind of dreaded it because it was like, oh, how are we going to have to sacrifice to bring our favorite characters to screen? And now it's like, how are we going to enhance our favorite characters and bring them as true to their roots, but bring them into a modern era as possible?
You feel like you're being given more flexibility in that regard as a designer?
It's almost more and less, because you're more beholden to the source material than I think ever before. But as a fan, that's a good thing. I love that. I love the fact that it's like, I see Spider-Man on screen and he looks like Spider-Man. It doesn't look like a, you know, version of him. It looks like, oh, yeah,
I appreciate that. But I think that there was a challenge there that I like to bring to the forefront. The lizard is very close to my heart. It was the first thing I ever sculpted as a little kid. I think I was about 11 years old. I used some clothes hangers and some masking tape to make the body, and I plasticine the face. And actually, one of my friends at school stole it from me. So that's saying something. Whoever you are, I know you have it.
It's worth money now. We want it back.
Right? I want it back. I'm Italian. But I think that character, visually speaking, has such a range of representational sort of...
now, everyone's complained, I've heard in the past, about the flat face.
Sure.
Now, the funny thing is, if you look at the first appearance of him, he had a flat face.
Talking about Ditko.
Yep, back in the very first one, big flat face.
That's right.
Now, the reason is, when you're making these movies, having a big snarling monster with teeth sticking out everywhere, you know, is pretty difficult to achieve and also match an actor's
kind of expensive, too.
Very expensive.
Think about it digitally.
You look at Smog, he's a great example of that, where it's like, yeah, he's got a snout, and when he talks, I believe it, but it'd be a little strange in a Spider-Man film. So I understood that their need to match an actor, bring that in a little bit more. Of course, you know, I love the big dinosaur version of him too. You know, the Todd McFarlane version,
of
which
course.
is just the vicious, mean.
I was going to mention that one.
Yeah.
So I think that percolates. I think that's a resonant sort of way to think about it.
I have some early concept stuff I did, which is a little truer to that. And then, you know, so many people worked on that, and it's funny to look at the range of designs that came out from that movie, where they were big dinosaur creatures, all the way to like just kind of scaly guy to. What I think they ended up with was a nice kind of hybrid of the two.
Like a very nice sort of mixture of things. But I think that particular thing that you mentioned about McFarlane, I think the McFarlane factor, for most of us of a certain age, the demographic that they might have been going for, we have that impression of the character based on what we saw with the Torment series, those 6 issues across the 1991 comic book.
See, this is a good interview. I can just talk about old 90s comics. I'm in.
I think that was a high watermark for me, artistically speaking. I thought, oh man, this is what
I mean, I forget the year that
illustrated.
came out.
1991,
was
yeah.
it 91?
Yeah, 91, summer of 91.
Like Craven coming out and all.
Absolutely,
you know,
yeah.
That was one of my first big buys, was the Craven's Last Hunt.
That's right.
Where he kind of ends himself in a very abrupt manner.
That's right.
And to see him coming back, like, you know, all these years later, but in this like hallucinatory state, I was like, wow.
I'd like to pay a nod though in that regard. Todd's work in that regard was influential in so many ways because he transformed the form of what Spider-Man actually walked and moved around.
When I think of Spider-Man, I still think of that spindly, the big eyes, all of that. Like I got to years and years ago, I worked on the Marvel Ultimate Alliance. And I got to do Spider-Man for that. I was, you know, modeling the character, but it was great because the leads on it were like, we just want to do like pretty much the McFarlane.
This is the game, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, oh great, okay, cool, I'm in.
Yeah, of course.
That's a version I really like.
I think that's really. Do you feel that as your career progresses, that you're given that sort of credence when you're designing? That you get, if you're sort of the principal designer, you have that sort of that signature style that you get to.
You know, it's hard to
stamp
say.
on. It's very difficult at this point, right?
I kind of don't. The reason being is, as a designer in film. You're not, you know, a lot of people think, I've heard this many times, you do these concepts and people are like, well, that one was cooler, why wasn't that used? Well, it's because I am the lowest totem pole, you know, I'm the person doing a design and I'm trying to work on someone else's vision. It's not my vision, you know, when you're doing concept work, you get maybe one pass of yours. If they love it, great, but usually it becomes a compromise. They have what they want to see in it, what needs to happen for the studio to greenlight it. And the real trick is being able to do that and still be proud of the work at the end of the day. You know, it can be difficult sometimes because some people are very precious about their art, which is the worst thing you can be as a concept artist because you're going to do hundreds and hundreds of images. Other people are going to do hundreds and hundreds of images. You're going to end up blending them together. It's a total group effort on almost every show I've been on to get to the final product. So if anybody is too like well, this is my signature look. Well, if you better be the director, because
Right.
otherwise, no one really cares too much, you know? Now, that's why personal work is so important. That's where you get to put your signature spin on things and define yourself as an artist.
Right.
And then they might bring you in, and then you get to put a little bit of your personal
A little
spice
salt,
on
yeah,
it,
a little salt, yeah, a little.
exactly.
You throw a little handful
Exactly.
of salt,
And as you get more known, I think that becomes more common.
be more
And-
trustworthy and
yes.
such.
But I hear it all the time from especially from beginners. They just want to jump right in and be like, well, this is my design. This is what should be in the movie. And it's like, nope, no, it's
Well, I
not.
think because there's a misconception, and I'd like to touch on that for a brief moment before I get into the innards of. Well, no, first let's talk about that process of presenting your work as a group. You're there, you're not just the sole concept artist. There are other
course not.
people there, and you're presenting your take on this. And take us into that process, because a lot of
Yeah.
people who are watching probably wonder, wait a minute, what are they talking about internally? I understand it, and
Yeah,
you
the
understand
way
it.
almost all these shows work, and it's funny because as big as the industry is, it's very small. And almost
I'll
every
say.
show I work on, I can guarantee certain artists are going to be involved. Because there's really only the people you trust, people that the studios trust. So when they bring them all in, you know that what you're presenting is, like, I've worked on the vendor side, and I've worked directly for directors and producers. I've worked, with the costume departments. I've worked on all sides of these things. And you're always a little, you're always a little bit trying to, further up?
Yes, yeah.
Cool.
You
How's
got
that? Okay.
a
But
little you were saying.
all right. Well, you're always trying to make sure that what you're doing is going to be your best foot forward. But you should know that there's other teams working on stuff. There's
Right.
other people working on stuff, and that can be difficult for some people. But if you embrace it, it's really pretty fantastic, because then you get to see these other people's amazing work and riff off of that, or maybe you're going to do a hybrid version of like 3 different people's things, or
Which is totally great.
it can be absolutely fantastic.
Like a
yeah.
jazz ensemble.
It is, yeah, and it's usually people that know what they're doing. So it's not like you're just being thrown like something you don't understand. It's usually, oh, that's a cool idea. Yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't have thought of doing it that way, which can be a very exciting part of the process.
You know, there was a time, we mentioned McFarlane and that sort of influence in the 90s. There was a number of years where he was drawing, sort of within a certain confine
Yeah.
For Marvel with some other titles. People don't realize that if they look a little deeper, there's this period of sharpening the sword and then a moment where the artist's style arrives because he's been sort of crafting and pounding away at this. So I think this is another example of
Absolutely. I mean, you look at Mignola with Hellboy. It's
Absolutely.
You look at some of his old work that he did for DC. You look at some of the stuff that he did for
Right.
Aliens. Beautiful, beautiful work.
that. I think so as well.
Then he started doing Hellboy, and if you look at the first issues to the newest ones, it is like, he found that like the minimalist version of what he needed to do to tell these stories, and it's just gorgeous. It's
I think
artwork.
yeah, absolutely. Like modern art in a way,
It,
actually. I
it
think
can be, yeah.
It's very sort of Edward Hopper-like flat sort of
Absolutely.
beautiful sort of spaces that are being created. I love it. The other thing that I wanted to ask you was you have a practical background, so you've been floating around between the practical and digital applications. You're another example of what we saw yesterday with Glenn and Neville. They were talking about the process. This is a more and more common thing happening. You're seeing ZBrush go from screen to print and back to these prosthetics. Talk to us a little bit about that and your experience with Legacy and people like Jason Lopes. Hey, Jay.
Yeah, it's. I think everyone should do it if they can, because it'll make you a better artist. Until you see what you've done in the computer screen sitting on your desk or walking by you, you don't really know what you've done. It's. I mean, printing them out is beautiful. That's great. You can get some lovely little images that way. But when you see like a character, like that little house elf I did, one of my favorite moments was when I printed this guy out. He's multiple parts, spindly little legs, gigantic head. And from my experience there, I kind of understood balance better. I understood proportion better. And as soon as I put them all together and set them on my desk, not even glued together, he balanced correctly. That is something that I think just getting your hands on things for a while, it's the only way you can learn that, really learning about balance and how things work.
One of my favorite things in the whole wide world, taking it from ZBrush to the desktop with a 3D print.
Absolutely. Everyone should go buy 3D printers too. They're
Got
really cool.
Got a nice demonstration happening outside in the outside of the green screen hangar. We're getting the spinning finger of death
I'm being told
from
we are
below. We are being told that it's time to wrap it up. I'd like to say thanks again on behalf of myself, Louis Tucci, and Ian Joyner. We're going to go back to the main screen stage. We're going to keep things electric here with the current and block ourselves from all things magnificent. We'll see you on the other side. Away, Paul, to you. Thank you.